What's going on, everybody? Timothy here with TM Motivations, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. I want to take a moment to give you some insight of a new direction in which we are heading for this podcast specifically. As you have noticed, the name of this podcast has changed, and it is Get Well, period. You know, the heartbeat of this channel has always been to be an oasis of hope in a desert of hopelessness. There's a lot of pain going on in this world. There's a lot of hurt happening that's taking place. And oftentimes it is going on, it's being ignored, it's being overlooked until it's too late. And I am tired. I am tired of going to funerals. I'm tired of officiating funerals and hearing people say, I didn't know it was that bad. When in reality, if you really want to be honest about about your life, all those times you're seeing someone, not maybe all those times, many of those times you're seeing someone pouring out their heart on Facebook or social media, and you just keep strolling, or maybe you give comments like, oh man, they shouldn't be complaining, or maybe they're having a victim mentality, or were they just being sensitive, or they complain all the time, or there's always a problem, or having a victim mentality, they're being a snowflake and all this other stuff, all the rhetoric in which you're communicating about someone's plea and cry for help. And then when it's all said and done, after they died by suicide or they're trapped in place of depression, after they've seen your comments and realize that that loved one is not a safe space or a safe person in which they can dialogue about their pain, that you rather them be silent and drown and gargling in their tears and be smothered by the knots in their throat because they cannot unction up the strength to ask for help. Because once again, they have deemed you as being unsafe through the fruit of your life towards them. It's alarming. So yes, we do know it's that bad. We do know there's a situation, but oftentimes we end up ignoring it. And so I want this podcast to be a place in which healing will take place, where we're having real conversations and sometimes uncomfortable conversations so people can get well, period. Get well, period. That's the name of this podcast. Get well, period. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different things regarding health and healing and restoration and hope. We're going to go in many different directions, but it's along that thing that these conversations, these guests I'm going to bring in is for the betterment of your life. Get well, period. You see that sign, the logo, the icon right there. I'm going to tell you what it's about. Get well, period. Get well, period is a universal symbol that covers mental, spiritual, physical health, a charge to involve cultural health among ethnics and races, churches, and all humanity. This mark carries weight. The period at the end represents there's no other choice, no turning back. The healing of an individual is peace, and piecing back together the religious and non-religious organizations must be a priority. This is a passion of focus of TMM. So as many of you know, I am a person of faith. I've been in ministry for 20 something, going on 20 years. And I run a I run a publishing company called TMM Publishing as well. And again, we're involved in a bunch of different things. So faith is a part of my life, but there's something I've realized very, 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 very aggressively, starting in 2016 and these last years that has transpired, is that the Church of America, that the topics of anxiety, depression, the topics of suicide, the topics of these real issues still is a taboo topic. And there's so many people who are struggling, dealing with hardship and pain, and they don't know where to go. That church has been deemed an unsafe place for vulnerability and honesty, and for many people. And so I want this channel to be a place where people of the faith and not of the faith as well can come and get a place of restoration and healing and stuff like that. So, and the great thing about running a publishing company, I'm coming across amazing people who has an incredible books that's talking about really, really, really real things, and I cannot wait to bring them on this podcast in which they can have these real, honest conversations. So get well, period. Family, it's just so imperative that we do whatever we can to get help. And I know it's easier said than done. I know it's not just wagging your fingers, not just sprinkling fairy dust on a situation that brings some change. I understand that sometimes it's hard. It is hard just to exist. It is hard to breathe in moments. It is hard to wake up in your mind, to kick your feet against across the end of the bed, to stand up just to try again. It's hard to muster up the strength to keep going. I get it. And I don't know what you're enduring in your life. I'm just hoping that this podcast can be a pit stop of restoration. I'm hoping that this podcast can be a place and the trance in the journey of your life where you're able to fill up to keep going, but to keep going on your way to the hospital, to keep going on your way to the therapist, to keep going on your way to the help that you need in your time of need. I have books out, and I have books out. The first book I actually ever published or wrote is called "Crowns Are Greater Than Trophies." And the reason why I wrote that book, and I'll put that book in the description of here in the YouTube and as well as of the podcast, but "Crowns Greater Than Trophies." The reason why I wrote that book is I was speaking at these different events, and I was busy. I had week after week after week after week, and I was given these suicide letters. These are letters where people are there. It's crazy. And we did our due diligence and got the help they need and all this other stuff. But they all said the same thing, but in different ways. No one cares about me. I have no friends. My mom and dad, they don't love me. I can't trust my parents and all this other stuff. And these individuals are as willing to take their life. They wanted to exit from this world because of it. Now, I wrote the last chapter of that book is called "Resurrecting the Altar of the Dinner Table." It is imperative that we learn how to talk again, not how to argue, not how to vent, that we learn how to talk, that there's psychological safety in our homes. And in today's world, in today's society, and where we're at right now, we are void. And even in our own households, they're not sanctuaries. Our own households are void of psychological safety, so there can be vulnerability because we are mustered up this facade, this masquerade, this masquerading mindset that you have to be strong all the time, or that vocalizing the validity of your situation is somehow, as if you're in church, a prophetic declaration of that the enemy holds on to. So you learn how to never be honest. You learn how to spiritualize your fakeness. But it is time that you learn how to speak. It's time that you learn how to speak up. It's time that you get well, period. And I'm hoping that this podcast be a place that you look forward to pop up on your YouTube or pop up on your phone and say, yes, this will be a moment that I know it's going to speak to my situation. It's going to speak to my need. So get well, period. There's a lot of things we got going on, a lot of things we're going to be releasing, but I wanted to make this particular video, this particular podcast, to give your introduction for redirection and just the clarity in which we're going. Get well, period. A lot of great things going to be taking place. So I want to ask you to please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you click on the notification bell if you're watching from YouTube, and make sure you just subscribe if you're watching for a podcast or Spotify or whatever case that may be. Again, I'm very excited about what's going to be taking place because I think I'm going to be intentional about helping people, intentional about making sure that, that people find help. I think that people deserve healing, whether they follow Jesus or not. I believe people deserve hope, regardless of what lifestyle or who they identify as. I believe that people deserve restoration and a new opportunity, a new beginning, whatever situation they find themselves in. I just want this to be in the wasteland of hope, in a desert of hopelessness. I want people to leave better. I don't want. Maybe I'll leave this for another video, but I just feel like we have gone so used to just ignoring people's pain that it's just normal. It shouldn't be that way. It still should take a village. It still should require a village to help. It still should be at a place in which we are intentionally looking for opportunities to serve, to help one another. That if we like, and the thing is in the book of Luke, the good story of the Good Samaritan, where this man is beat down on the side of the road. A Levite sees him. He sees a man, sees an issue. He assesses that it's not worth his time, and he goes back along his way. A priest sees a man, the same thing. He has religious responsibilities. He sees a man beat down. He sees an opportunity, makes up in his mind. He assesses in his own life, his situation, his own schedule, whatever the case may be, that is not worth his time. And then a stranger, Samaritan, someone of not even of seeming of the religious faith or belief, for some people, someone who shouldn't be at cultural odds, saw the situation, saw the need, got involved, put his money where his mouth is, and helped the man. And I just believe that this has to be a place in which we are saying, I'm going to be someone that is going to be attentive to the pain of people, whether you look like me, whether you talk like me, whether you act like me, whether you vote like me, whether you're black like me, whatever your place of origin. I'm going to be a brother and a sister that's going to fight with you and fight for you, because we remember what it was like to be voiceless, to remember what it's like to feel like we're fighting all by ourselves. Have you forgotten what it was like where your tears became your food? Have you forgotten what it was like for your own stomachs to growl? Have you forgot the unction of what is being taking place? Because I think we're at a lack of compassion and empathy in our today, in our world, because we're in a lack of understanding and remembrance. Don't get too high. Don't get too big for your britches. Be involved. Be present. Whether you are the person who needs the help, whether you're tuning in because you want to find areas to help, the priority must be to get well, period. Get well, period. Authentically, legitimately, get well, period. Do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and tune in. We got so much credible content coming. Holla at y'all later. Peace.